Welcome back to another episode of the Brilliant Resilient Experience. Today we have a very special guest. He is a local MMA fighter based right here in St. Louis, Missouri. He's coming off a dominant win in Nemesis Fighting Alliance, and he trains out of ESMMA and Fitness. I'm super excited to bring him on, so let's go ahead and bring on Logan Jones. What's up, Logan? How are you?
What's up? I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. How's the gym today? What's the
It's
vibe
good.
like?
Just got off work a little bit ago and came in, and Eric's doing one of his lessons, and
Nice.
so usually it's my chill time before training starts here in an hour. So
Yeah, what kind of training do you do today?
today is MMA sparring, kickboxing, and I believe wrestling tonight. So yeah,
Nice.
it's a long one today.
Yeah, how long are your training sessions normally?
It normally depends. Like Wednesdays, I'll do usually 1 to 2 hours, depending on how I'm feeling. Every other night, though, is normally like 2 hours.
Oh, okay, that's not as bad as I thought.
No, nothing crazy.
I see some people, they train like 5 hours a day. I'm like,
I mean, I guess
crazy.
if you could split it up in the day, I could see
Yeah.
that, but I couldn't imagine doing just 5 straight hours.
yeah, that's what I always thought was like the norm. I mean, I guess it depends on what level you're at too. Like if you're training for a UFC title, then maybe I
that's a
could
little
see
different.
that. But yeah, it's crazy. I had my first training session of the year yesterday. I'm feeling excited.
Oh yeah. Yesterday was a good one.
Yeah, it was fun. It was my first time doing the advanced class, so I was like,
Okay, how'd you like that?
I really liked it because I never really had like when I sparred before, like I never really had like a bridge from like the pads to sparring.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the perfect like kind of like, okay, here's getting used to like getting hit, but you're not
Right.
having to like fend for your life, like
Right.
you're not having to like really worry about getting hit hard, so you can really focus on learning the technique. So I really like it.
Yeah.
I
I'm
think
really glad
it's-
that
I think it's
Eric
great.
started that whole thing, because like
Yeah.
you get people that come in and be like, oh, I want to spar right away, and then get beat up
Yeah.
pretty badly, and it's like, you need a good in between, and that advanced class is perfect for that.
It's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I always wondered what that class was. I didn't even realize that. And then
Oh,
one
really?
day, I kind of like realized it because he sent me the class schedule because I'm going to start doing kickboxing too. And he was like, I was like, oh, how do I take the advanced class? And he's like, oh, you can do whenever you want. I'm like,
You just
oh.
do it. Yeah.
I was like, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I was like, cool. But I'm glad I did it this way because now I have like 4 months of doing the pad classes under my belt. And then now
Right.
like moving on to advanced and then, do kickboxing. So I'm like slowly adding
Right.
things on, which is like hard to do because it's hard to be patient in martial arts because you want to learn
100%.
everything.
100%.
But I feel like now I'm like doing it the right way where it's like, okay, just
Right.
add one little thing at a time and don't try to master everything at once, just focus on the basics. And really I want to get my defense down before I start sparring because it's like,
that's the most important thing. Like Eric
Yeah.
drills that into our head, like defense.
yeah,
I mean,
that's one
but,
thing I really do like about his classes is like he really does focus a lot on defense. And I feel like it's so
important.
slept on. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is because I think people don't realize like, yeah, if you get knocked out in a fight, of course that's going to affect your longevity, but also your sparring is going to affect your longevity too. Because if you're
Yeah.
getting beat up in sparring constantly and getting concussions, like
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to fight that long.
Yeah. That's
And
no
you're going to
joke.
have CTE. Like it's no good. So it's
Yeah.
important.
Are you looking at doing a fight 2024?
I don't know. People keep asking me this.
I mean, hey.
So I do want to do one eventually. I don't know
Yeah.
when, and I'm not in a rush,
Right.
I think it's
That's fair.
something that I've always wanted to do, but I'm not in a rush because I want to really learn, and I want to
Okay.
I just want to be patient,
That's
But
fair.
if
That's probably-
if like
probably a good
6
thing.
months from now, Eric's like, hey, I think you're ready, then sure, if it takes a year, if it takes however long
Right.
it takes, then it's
Right.
like I'm willing to kind of really be patient with it and not rush into it. But it is something that I want to do.
Most people, it's the opposite. You know, people will come in and be like, right off the bat, they're like, oh, when can I fight? And then, like, Eric will be like, oh, you know, probably, like, close to a year. And they're like, oh, that's a long time. And it's like, it's really not.
It's not. No.
Like, once you start sparring and stuff, it's like, oh, this is different.
Yes. Yeah, and I've really, like, I don't know. I feel like when I first started training, I kind of did it wrong. Like, I just didn't know. And I also didn't know if I wanted to compete or not. You know, I wanted to learn the technique, but I didn't know if I was really going to compete. And you know, and even when I started training at ES, like, I still didn't know if I wanted to compete. Because, I don't know, I feel like I'm like, I see how everybody else trains, and I'm like, man, they're so much better than me. So I'm like, how would I possibly be able to do this? And I guess I kind of underestimate myself sometimes too.
Right.
But I also have a lot of respect for the sport. So I don't want to go into a sport with like 4 months of training and be, all right, I'm ready to fight. Like,
right.
No. It's
go
crazy.
out there and get knocked out right off the bat.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to do that. So if I do, then or I guess when I do, I want to make sure that, you know, it's more of a respect thing.
100%.
Like, I want to put in the work. I want to build a solid routine and not just train for a fight, but just train to learn and train to enjoy training and really learn to, like, fall in love with the training and the grind. So that's kind
awesome.
of what I've been like. Yeah, I love training. I love coming to the gym, and I feel like, you know, if I would have gone into it thinking like, okay, I'm going to get ready for a fight, then I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much and enjoyed the process. So I feel like now I'm like really enjoying the process, and I've been at the gym for a while now, so I'm comfortable, and, you know, it just feels like now is the time to really start ramping it up. And then, you know, then I can think about competing and figure out what I would even want to compete in, and like, yeah, but it's exciting. It's fun. And Eric's a great coach, so that makes it a lot better. It makes me feel he's so awesome. Like, for real, it's refreshing because, you know, there's a lot of great coaches out there, obviously. But I feel like Eric really cares about the fighters, whether you have one amateur fight under your belt, whether you never had a fight, whether you're just doing this for fun, whether you're a pro, you're in the UFC, like, I feel like he cares about everybody, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I've only been to this gym and one other gym, but I feel like especially with like bigger gyms, coaches aren't, like, especially the head coach, the owner of the gym, isn't as one-on-one with like every single student.
Yes.
Like he is.
That's what I love about it. Yes.
Which is amazing.
It's a small gym. I love it. I love the small gym.
Nice little family we got going on here.
Yeah, it's fun, and I love how you guys make fun of each other. It's really actually entertaining.
It is. Listen, I would not trade this gym family for anything, because it's nonstop. Like, if you guys come into the gym, you'll hear it. Like, it's me, Kendall, and Austin are the biggest jokesters, and like, if one of us is cutting weight or not, like, it's the best, because we just constantly pick on each other. More than picking on me, but, you know, it's cool.
I love it.
But it's funny. It's so much fun.
I was going to ask you about that, because me and Austin are doing animal-based diet. And
oh, really?
So we're trying to stay disciplined over here. And I know as soon as you get in a fight camp, I'm going to see nothing but obnoxious food posts. And it's just going to be like it's going to be rough.
It's the craziest thing. Like, it's so hard to explain until you cut the weight. That's like, I would never crave these things, but since I absolutely cannot have the things, like, it's like, that looks amazing. Like, all the desserts and stuff really blew my mind, because I used to never have a sweet tooth, ever. And then, like, for my first weight cut, that's all I craved was desserts.
That's funny.
And then that's when I actually, like, started to, like, bake more. That's when I started, like, baking cheesecakes and stuff because of that. And now it's my favorite thing.
It's funny. I feel like once I, like, quit drinking, then I started to have more of a sweet tooth, because, like, I I used to like go
That
out on
would
the
make
weekends and
sense.
have some drinks, and I think it's because of the sugar in alcohol. So it's like those few drinks a week that I would have, or those
Right.
going out on the weekends, party, whatever.
Right.
That was my cheesecake.
That
And
would
now-
make sense because I quit drinking like as soon as I started coming into this gym. I quit drinking.
Yeah.
So that would make sense.
Nice. Yeah. Well, let's talk about that because I feel like that is one thing that has really leveled up my training is getting rid of alcohol. I don't know about you, but like
100%.
I feel like yeah.
Like yeah, it used to be like every weekend go out with the boys.
Yeah.
Drink way too much, and then it got to the point where I was just like, I'm tired of feeling like this.
Yes.
So, and then that was right around the time I started doing this, and I got really serious about my MMA training.
Yeah.
So, like, when I stopped drinking alcohol, I was like, I feel amazing now.
100%. Yeah. And Bo Nickel was talking about that too. Like he doesn't drink, and I think it's not only the alcohol too, but it's also just like the distraction of going out every
Going
weekend.
out to the
It's like,
bars and all that, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like you can make so many better memories doing something like you're doing, going and doing pretty freaking cool stuff like that you're going to be able to leave a legacy, like whether you make it to the UFC or whether you just, are an amateur fighter or whatever, like you can leave such a cool legacy doing that. And you're not going to leave a legacy going to the bar. Like you're just not.
Not at all.
Or maybe you will, but it's like the wrong legacy.
Yeah,
like,
that's
who can
why
do the best keg stand.
Yeah, no joke. That's why people say like not just like fighters, but like people that are serious about like weightlifting and stuff make like the worst friends if you're not doing that because we never go out. Like literally, I'm at work, I come to the gym, and I go home. Like. I have no interest in going out and partying and doing all that stuff anymore. It's like, I'd rather just kick it with the boys and watch UFC fights.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that kind of bleeds into, what you're doing too. Watching fight. And I think it's important for fighters to pay attention to what's going on in the UFC.
Oh, yeah,
what's going
100%.
on in MMA. And so that's almost, obviously you're having fun watching UFC, but it's almost kind of like work too. Like when I watch fights, like I'm studying it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, like
it's
watching
fun.
fights with Eric is the greatest thing ever. Because like
For
most
real?
of us because we'll just sit back and watch. He's in full coach mode whenever he's watching. Like he's standing up and he's like, oh, he needs to be slipping that jab, coming back with it too, and just like he'll say something, a guy will do it, and he's like, I told you, I got it.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to watch
so
fights
much
with you
fun.
guys sometime because I gotta see this.
Oh,
Because
it's
when
so
I
much
watch
fun
fights,
watching fights
I'm
with him.
like focused. Like I am.
Yeah.
I'm focused, and that's why I tell people, they're like, "Oh, you want to go watch the fights?" And I'm like, "Nah, you don't really.
No.
You don't really watch fights the way I watch them." I'm like, "We can, but like, don't try to talk to me during
Don't talk to me.
the main card at all.
Yes.
Like, don't talk to me unless you're talking about
Literally.
the fight." Yeah, it's funny. And I used to watch it more casually. Like I would just watch it and sit back, cool, But then the more I learned about it, now I can't turn it off.
Yeah, I feel like it's so hard, like when you have like the mentality that like we do now to like watch the fights and not like study it and not be like, this is what he's doing. Like especially if it's a fighter that you love to watch the fighter, like that you want to base yourself around.
Yeah.
It's like you're gonna study him.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, what's a fighter that I guess has had a big influence on you or that you really like to watch?
I mean,
or a few.
My boy, my short king, Volkanovski. I mean,
I love him so much.
He seems like such a genuine good person.
Yes.
And then him being 5'6" and just dominating the 145-pound class is just like, I love it. So I try to base myself off of him.
Yeah.
But probably the most like influential fighter, like, is Evan Elder, because he's the one that got me into MMA.
Really?
Yeah. So him and my older brother, best friends throughout high school. Like, it's so funny seeing Evan now, because I remember seeing Evan and my brother playing Black Ops Zombies and just being total nerds. Oh, total nerds. And it was hilarious. So I always watched him and was like, and if you're around Evan, he's literally the most influential person. Like, he's the nicest guy in the world. And But yeah, he's the one that got me into it and got me hooked up with Eric, and so yeah, he's definitely like the most influential UFC fighter that I watch now.
That's so cool. So you basically grew up around him, and now you're watching him in the UFC.
Oh my God,
that's awesome.
It's been awesome.
That's so cool. I love that. I feel like, you just never know who is gonna make it. You really don't. Like, I mean, you can tell. You can see somebody and think
who has the.
Yeah, especially if they have the work ethic and they have the drive and they have the ambition. Then you're like, okay, they might be onto something here. Right. But, sometimes you might, but it's still like, I don't think people understand how hard it is to get to the UFC.
Oh my God. I know. Because it's
just to get there.
And then once you're in, it's like, oh, you really got to do something, because there's always that next guy that's ready to step in and take your spot.
Yeah. Well, and he's in the toughest division, arguably, in the UFC. So it's like
100%.
Yeah. Like that. I feel like right now, 155 and 135, in my opinion, are probably the toughest divisions. Yeah. 135 actually might be slightly deeper than 155 as far as like how many fighters are on the roster.
Yeah.
It's
like
crazy.
if you compare top 10 to 135 and 155, you're probably right.
Do you fight at 135?
Yeah, I fight at 135.
Okay, that's what I thought. I couldn't remember which weight division you were in.
Which is terrifying.
Featherweight or bantamweight? You
look at these guys in the UFC and it's like, man, I fight at their weight class. They just seem so big.
Yeah.
But
yeah, because Garrett Armfield, he's bantamweight, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he is bantamweight.
He's fought at featherweight too, but he's in his division is bantamweight. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. There's so much talent in that division too.
Oh, it's insane.
Even on the regional level.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Level.
It's crazy. But it's really cool. I feel like that division too has a good mix of like wrestlers, strikers, jiu-jitsu. Like it has a good mix of all different styles, which is really cool. Which I was going to ask you about that because I did go to the fights. I did. Mm-hmm. And I kind of just was just chilling. I brought my friend with me. We were just watching the fights. And honestly, that was one of the best local shows I've seen in a long time, for real. Because
Nemesis puts on such a good show. Like their Ballpark Village. It was
awesome.
It's my favorite.
It was so awesome. And I had never been to one of their shows before, so I didn't know what to expect, really.
Right.
I mean, I had seen like some highlights and I had seen like some pictures and stuff. So I was like, okay, this looks like they have a good production and, it looks like it's legit. So I was like excited, but I didn't know, because it doesn't matter, like, you could have the best production in the world, but if your matchmaking sucks and if the fighters
literally
if the fighters don't take it serious, but it looked like everybody took it serious. It looked like the matchmaking was solid. The fights were good. Like there were some bangers on that card.
There were some really good fights on that card. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. In the main event, man, Jesse's
Jesse's an animal.
Holy God, that was
I love
crazy.
him. That's my boy.
I was so honestly. That was probably my favorite performance of the year in local MMA that I've watched, for real.
I'd say so.
I'm not just saying that because I train with you guys. I'm just
right. No,
that was literally my favorite.
That was a great fight because his opponent Dylan's a tough guy.
Yeah, because I remember watching him with Chris Craig, and that fight was freaking insane too.
Great fight too, yeah. So I knew that was going to be such a good fight.
Yeah. That was awesome. Yeah, he really impressed me with that performance. But you impressed me too because was your fight a little earlier on the card?
Yeah, it was the fourth fight of the card.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I remember the fight. I just don't remember the order because I remember I was keeping track. I'm like, okay, Kendall's up next. Logan's up next. I'm like, But it was fun. But I was really impressed with your grappling, and I wanted to ask you about that because how long have you been training MMA?
So I've been training MMA just over 2 years now. Yeah, over 2 years. Man, maybe. Yeah, just over 2 years now is when I started MMA. And that's the funny thing. Like, a lot of people ask me about my grappling and my wrestling. And I didn't wrestle in college. I didn't wrestle in high school.
No shit.
I did wrestle from the time I was like 6 or 7 until 8th grade. And then I just kind of got burnt out on it and stopped. And like now I'm kicking myself in the butt. I'm like, I wish I would have never stopped because I was pretty good back in the day, and now it's just kind of like riding a bike, you know.
Yeah. So you wrestled when you were younger, basically.
Yeah.
When you were a little kid. Okay.
Yeah.
I see. But still, I mean, there's people that do karate when they're a little kid and they can't do anything now.
Yeah.
You know? So it's
yeah,
like,
that's fair.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't do anything when I was a kid, but
Really?
when I watched you grapple, I would have thought you were like a top high school wrestler for real.
I
or
appreciate
like
that.
in college wrestling. No, like for real, because I watch a lot of MMA, obviously. And and that style of fighting can take you so far in the sport.
Oh yeah,
for real.
And like that's, I attribute a lot of that to the guys that I get to train with. So like, my top 3 guys I train with are Corey Beck, Jesse Martinelli, and Danny Moriarty, and they're some of the top
I've heard
flyweights. I couldn't think of
pretty
it. They're like
brilliant
some
when
of
it
the
comes to
top
grappling.
flyweights, and they're such good like Jesse is obviously well-known wrestler.
yeah.
He's an amazing wrestler. Same with Danny, and then Corey. You know, he's our jiu-jitsu coach. His grappling is amazing too. So I really attribute all my ground game to those 3 guys because they help me a ton.
Yeah, it shows. How many takedowns did you get in that fight? It was a lot.
9.
It was at least like 6. 9?
9,
Dang.
yeah. Yeah.
All right, Khabib.
No, literally, that's so funny you say that because literally, I got done with the fight. I went upstairs, and as soon as I walk in, Austin and Kendall were there. They're all excited for me, and Austin goes, he's like, okay, Logan Nurmagomedov Jones. So, I guess that's
an
what
Austin thing
that's
to
what
say,
we're going
too.
with. But
That's funny.
yeah.
That was my thought too.
Yeah, I know. Everyone was like, man, looking like Khabib out there, and I was like, the funny thing about that fight is I really didn't want to grapple in that fight. I really wanted to work on my striking, but after the first takedown, I was like, okay, this guy's not gonna stop my takedowns, so I'm just gonna do it there.
But that's good because you're taking the path to victory. Like you're not
Right.
letting your ego get in the way and your pride get in the way of like, I gotta show this guy I can strike, you know? Because it's like, of course, you know, that's exciting. It's fun to watch striking. It's fun, but it's an MMA fight.
Yeah.
Like,
and we're amateurs.
Mixed
we're just trying to
martial
get fights.
arts. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you know, I mean, it's good to take risks in fights sometimes, and it's good to put on a show, of course. But the thing is, if you appreciate grappling as a fan, it's entertaining to watch grappling.
Oh yeah.
It's just that a lot of people don't know anything about grappling, so when they watch it, they're like, "Why are they hugging?"
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I had some buddies that are like, oh, you should have just stood up and punched him more, and I'm like, I'm not even gonna try to argue. Just gonna keep doing what I'm doing.
yeah, and it's always the people that have never trained that say something like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, I remember I was at a Shamrock show one time and I heard people talking. I don't even remember what fight it was, but it was somebody, you know, they had like a bunch of takedowns or they just like held him on the ground for a while, controlled him. And I tried, like, I had to use so much discipline not to say something because I hear them like, oh, you basically just hugged him the whole time. And I'm like, sitting here, I'm like, do you know how much strength and cardio it takes to hold somebody down like that?
God. I was so tired after that fight.
Oh, I bet. Yeah,
like
100%.
I didn't like you don't realize it while you're fighting, but like as soon as I got done and like was doing my post-fight interview, I was like, oh my God, I'm about to throw up. But
did you eat the Christmas tree cakes after that?
Yeah, I did. When I got back home, I had one Christmas tree cake and
just one.
Yeah, that night I just had one.
I would have eaten that whole box.
The thing
immediately.
I probably got 8 boxes of Christmas tree cakes, just people giving them to me because of all my Facebook posts, and I just thought that was the greatest thing ever. Like when I walked up to weigh-ins.
I love it.
When I walked up to weigh-ins, and they're like, Logan, we got something for you. And they gave me that Christmas tree box to take a picture with for weigh-ins. It was the funniest thing ever.
I thought that was fantastic. I
Yeah, it was
really
amazing.
appreciated that they did that, actually.
Oh god, it was so funny.
Especially after seeing all your Facebook posts. And
Yeah.
I'm over here trying to eat healthy. And I just want to be like, look, every time you post this, your algorithm is just going to show you more of it.
I know.
And torture you. But I don't know. It's actually kind of funny. Honestly, I mean, it's kind of like your thing. Like,
it is now. Everyone knows now. Like, when Logan's cutting weight, Logan's going to share nothing but food posts. 100%.
I love it. Yeah. I think it's hilarious. But, yeah, I mean, so when you're not in training camp, is your diet that much different from when you are?
Honestly, not really. I think the only thing that's really different about it is that, like, on Friday nights or Saturday nights, I will have my cheat meals. That's when I'll eat, pizza or kind of whatever I want. And then, like, usually, like, I like something sweet right before I go to bed.
Oh, yeah,
So that's really the only big difference, because besides that, I pretty much stick to the same stuff. Chicken, potatoes, broccoli, all that stuff. And then I'll have my 1 or 2 cheat meals during the week. But it's like, when I get to the point where, like, I have to lose that weight, it's like I just cold turkey everything. Like, I don't even, like, kind of substitute anything. So, like, when I'm 5-6 weeks into that of just eating the same stuff, I'm like, oh god, everything sounds so good. But I need to get better about that, though.
You can join me in Austin. We're really taking our discipline to the next level this year.
Yeah. I thought about that, like, between...
I lost it with, like, November, December. I was on a good track, I feel like, from September through November. I was eating really well. And then just everything went out the window once Thanksgiving came around.
Right.
It's just done.
What's really annoying is, like, for me, like, even if I am, like, super on my diet and everything, like, the weight comes back on me so fast. Like, just the way I'm built. So I'm always walking around pretty heavy. So whenever I have to cut the weight, it's like I can't cheat at all to get all that weight off. But
how
Eric,
much weight do you cut?
So for this last one, I cut 35 pounds.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard much worse, but still.
So
the idea of that gives me anxiety.
It was not fun, but I felt, after weigh-ins and everything, obviously I felt great. And, Eric likes me to fight at that weight class because I am shorter, like 5'6", 5'7". But whenever I cut the weight and then the next night at weigh-ins, I normally put on like 22, 23 pounds. So I'm so much heavier than my opponent, and I'm just kind of like a weight bully at that point. Which helps in the grappling.
It is a huge advantage, though, a lot of times. And I feel like when you get to the pro level, you almost have to do that. So it's like...
Oh, 100%.
You might as well do it now so you learn and get better at it, and learn better ways to cut the weight. Because when you go pro, you're going to have to. Because there's going to be people that are even cutting more weight than you are.
Right.
And you're going to have to fight with them. So, because, like, think about featherweight. What does Volkanovski walk around at? 180 something?
Yeah, he probably walks around 180, 190.
It's crazy. Yeah, because I think he was at 180 or something whenever he took that fight with Islam.
Yeah, you're right, he was. I think he was like 182 or something like that.
So he cut like 30 pounds in 10 days.
Yeah, something crazy like that. That's why I like him too, because he was a 200-something pound rugby player. When he started, and like whenever I very first started at ES, I was like more of like into bodybuilding, and I was like 205. I was 205 pounds whenever I first. Yeah. Jesus. Looking at me now, you would have never guessed it, but I was like, I was pretty big.
Crazy.
And then when I first started, I told Eric I wanted to fight, and he was like, "Oh, we'll probably have you fight at 155." And then the weight came off so fast, and he was like, "We'll probably have you fight at 145." I'm like, "All right, cool." And then I did a couple IKFs at 145, the kickboxing tournaments. Did those at 145, and he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna have you fight at 135." It's like, God.
You're like, okay, let's stop
That's the
here,
limit.
please.
That's the limit. Yeah, he jokes. He still jokes with me now. He's like, oh, when you turn pro, he's like, we'll probably have you fight at 125. And I'm like, Eric, my scale will never say 125. And he's like, oh, yeah, we'll see.
That's hilarious.
But
yeah,
he jokes.
that's what I was thinking about,
with,
too. Like the weight cutting.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Well,
even
he
know
jokes
what
with Kendall,
weight
and
class.
he jokes with Austin about it too. He jokes with Kendall about he's gonna have to fight at 145, and then he jokes with Austin that he's gonna have to fight at 155. We think he's joking. Well, he might be dead serious, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
I feel like it's hard to tell sometimes when he's joking and when he's being serious.
Oh, 100%. Like his sarcasm is next level.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I don't even know, because, like, the women's divisions, what do they have? 115s? Like,
Yeah, straw
do they
weight,
even have
115.
105 really in many
No, I don't think so.
promotions? I mean, they have it in 1FC.
I think they haven't won, but
yeah, I think
that's it.
115 is usually, like, the lowest.
right.
I'm 127 right now, which is honestly kind of heavy for me. Like, I'm usually around 120, 125. But I used to weigh like 110 to 115 before
crap.
I started lifting. And then I started lifting. I put muscle on. I didn't have
There you
any
go.
muscle before. That's why I was so light.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know. So I'm like, but even the thought of cutting 12 pounds sounds so crazy to me.
It's definitely
Sounds
a lot
so
different for
crazy.
girls, you know, because Kylie fights and like she
Yeah.
had I think she cut like 12 pounds, and it was
Yeah.
like really tough on her. And then you look at
Yeah.
like me and Austin or Kendall who cut like 20 to 30 pounds, and we're like, nah, it's not that bad.
Yeah, because that's why I don't understand how Cyborg ever was able. I mean, I know what she did.
Well, yeah,
cut the
she
weight.
about killed herself to do it.
But it's so crazy, like how much weight she actually cut, because like it is a little different for women. Like it's harder to
Oh,
lose
100%.
weight, especially with like, you know, different like birth control and stuff that you're on, or like
Right.
different, like I know I have a friend, she's on this like certain type of birth control where like she cannot lose weight while
That
she's on it.
sucks.
Like she cannot lose weight. And like there's just different things that like women have to deal with that make it harder to cut
Yeah.
weight. But at the same time, there's still a lot of girls that cut a lot of weight. So it's
Right.
like there's no way around it. You know, you kind of have to. But
I feel like if
I
it's
don't know,
your if that's your job, I feel like that would make things easier too. Like
yeah.
everyone complains about weight cutting or like how these UFC fighters do it, but when that's all they're doing is training and like that's their job is to fight and to make weight, I feel like
Yeah.
things should be a little easier.
Exactly. Yeah. Because that's the thing that amazes me, too, about a lot of, you know, like you guys, like you and all the amateur fighters. It's like, you know, you have a full-time job on
Yeah.
top of this. Like, I
Right.
don't even know how you do it, for real. Like,
There
it
are
blows
some
my
days.
mind.
There are some days, but
Do you, like, have to physically go into work?
oh yeah.
Or do you work
like
from home?
I'm a
Oh, jeez.
So I'm in a union, and I go and I'm either welding in a shop or I'm out like on roofs installing metal
Oh,
roofs.
God.
So yeah, I have a very manual labor job, and
Yeah. That's
for my
exhausting.
second fight, I was doing a metal roof in the middle of summer, and it was the worst weight. Like cutting weight for that and like going to the gym sucked so bad because I'd be so tired, so dehydrated, and then have to come and train for another 2 hours. And
Oh, God.
that one was rough.
That's, yeah, jeez. That's something I think about all the time with a lot of these amateur fighters, because most of you guys do have full-time jobs.
Oh yeah.
And it's hard enough to fight on it on your own without anything else. Like, it's
Yeah.
hard enough. And I don't think people realize that. Like, and
No.
it's something that, like, and that's kind of why, like, partially why I do want to compete at some point, because it just, to me, is like, if you can even make that walk, like, that's such a test of discipline
100%.
and work ethic, and I want to do that. Like, like not
100%.
even for like, because obviously, like, I'm never gonna go to UFC. I'm never gonna be pro, but like, I just want to experience it, and also because of what I'm doing with like being in MMA media and stuff, I feel like I almost wish that more MMA media people would at least train. You know, at least
it's the same argument for like judges and like stuff like that. I feel like judges should train for whatever they're judging and do like at least one fight. You know,
for real.
Same thing with
100%.
coaching. You know, you can be like a great coach, but if you've never fought before, I feel like you just don't really know.
I feel like there are some exceptions, like Eric Nixick is an exception, but they're very rare.
It's very few and far between, you know.
Yes. And I feel like too, Eric Nixick is the type of person who like really studies the sport.
Oh, 100%.
And what he him and Dennis Davis what they've been able to do at Extreme is really cool, because I feel like Dennis Davis is more of like the nitty gritty, like in the fight, and then Eric is more of like the business side of it and the career like planning and that side of it, the mental side. And I feel like you have to have that. Like you have to have both.
See, that's what's funny is like you say like you have to have both, because I also cross train over at Wolf's Den. So like
nice.
ES is my home gym. That's where I get like, you know, all my striking. Of course I get my grappling with Corey and Jesse. But I feel like it's very technical here. You know, like I said, more like the business side. And then I'll go over to Wolf's Den and spar with those guys, and it's just a room full of high level pros. And like when I go there, Eric's like, yeah, you're just gonna have to like fight sometimes, and like it's nitty gritty over there, and I absolutely love it because I gotta go over there and like bite out of my mouthpiece and fight. Like last Friday night I went there. Danny's getting ready for a fight, so like he beat me up pretty good. And then I went with this other guy, and I should have put two and two together. You know, he had a UFC shirt on. I didn't think anything of it. He put it to me, and like, oh, we got done, and I'm like, who was that guy? And they're like, oh, that was Dakota Bush. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So that's what I like. But that's why I like.
He's been fighting for a while, hasn't he? Too.
Yeah, he has.
Yeah.
And I think he's looking.
He's
at
a lightweight.
Trying to make a little bit of a comeback. But that's why I like going over there too, because that's when I have to just bite down my mouthpiece and just accept the suck sometimes.
Yeah. I feel like. Yeah, I mean, it's hard when you have like those hard training sessions, but then I imagine that would just make you feel so much more confident going into the fight, knowing 100% that you've trained with people that are levels above, you know, where you're at.
For this last fight, I had a conversation with Eric because I had a really bad week. I just had a bad week. I just wasn't in the groove. I had a really bad night sparring, you know. I pretty much went with Danny the entire time. And she couldn't get in the groove of the thing. And then Saturday, I pretty much quit sparring halfway through the session, and was just thinking to myself, why am I doing this? I'm getting beat up. I just feel like I can't get in the groove. And Eric was just you're gonna have those days, and you just gotta, bite down your mouthpiece and just keep going.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah,
it's freaking hard. I mean, and that's with anything. But that's what I love about training. Is because that ability to kind of push through, it teaches you a different level of mental fortitude. I feel like
that's the same thing I tell some of my guy friends with cutting weight. I'm any when it comes to guys, anyways, I'm anybody can do it. It's all about how mentally tough you are.
Yeah,
and that's 100%. Literally that's it. I just have to, people oh, how do you do it? It's well, I just eat the same breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day, and I don't allow myself to cheat. It sucks sometimes, but
yeah, it's sacrifice. That's all it is.
Right.
Sacrifice.
It's a lot easier too when you have an end goal. When you're cutting weight and you're oh, I have to be this weight on this day. It's a lot easier. I
can imagine that. Yeah. I mean, it's hard because it's oh, I got to make it by this day.
Right.
But at the same time, it's you at least know it's gonna be over at some point.
Right.
But I saw you're trying to do 5 fights this year, 5 to 7 fights this year.
Yeah, 5
That's
to
awesome.
7 would be great. I really want to be as active as possible. This last year was my first year fighting. I had 3 fights. Nice. It was good. I should have had more, but after my second fight, I came into the gym the week after, and fractured my shin sparring. Yeah, we're doing, no shin guards, like on Wednesdays, what we do. And I just cracked a knee. And that took me out for like 3 or 4 months. Like I couldn't take any kicks, couldn't really grapple. But that actually helped a lot because I got to only work on my boxing. And even though we hate giving this kid credit, Adam Cutting is he's gotten to the point where he's a really good boxer. He's like the kid at the gym.
I've seen him train. He's really good.
Yeah, he is a really good boxer. So he really helped me with just my boxing for like 3 months. So I was really appreciative of that. But so this year I had a talk with Eric. He was like, "Oh, what are you thinking this year?" And I'm like, "Man, I want to fight as much as possible and see where it takes me, honestly."
I mean, when you're in AMI, I feel like that's the mentality you should have because, even if you don't win all those fights,
right,
you want to have that happen before you go pro.
That's literally Eric's literally said the exact same thing. He's like, your record doesn't, like, it matters to a certain extent when you're in AMI, but it also doesn't. He's like, you could have 12 fights, win, let's say 7 of those fights, and still like that you still have a dozen fights. Like you're experienced enough to go pro and still do well.
Right. It's about the experience for sure.
Yes.
Because even if you lose a fight, it's always an experience gain. And or even if you win a fight, but you're like, that wasn't the best performance, then that's an experience gain too. And so you learn something from every single time. And when you look at it that way, then it's like, but when you go pro, obviously then you want to win.
Yeah,
that's
when the record.
time.
That's when the record kind of matters a whole lot more.
Exactly. So it's like you want to take it seriously, of course, and you want to. The goal is to win, but like when you're an amateur, the goal is also to learn as much as possible and to test yourself, like to really challenge yourself. And I feel like.
I got people walking. As people are starting to come in for sparring, like I said, people are going to come in and be like, "Oh, what are you doing?" So.
What's up, guys?
Yeah.
That's funny. I feel like it's all experience, and the more you compete when you're starting out, I feel like the better, because especially if the goal is to go pro or the goal is to get to the UFC, it's like you want to make sure. And I've talked to pro fighters about this. I've talked to a lot of people about this, and they're like, you really have to capitalize on your amateur career and
100%.
Make the best of it. And yes, you want to win as much as possible, but also make sure that you are ready when you go
Literally.
pro.
That's what like Eric drives that into our head. He's like, some of these pros, he feels like go pro too early, and it's sometimes not great for their career. And then you look at some of these pros, like I know Jesse and Corey. I think they both have like 11 or 12 amateur fights each before they went pro.
Nice.
Which I literally talked to Corey about it last night. He's like, I think that's like the best option for these amateurs is to get as many fights as you can until obviously it gets to the point like if you're winning a lot, like it's gonna be tough to find fights. So that's when you go pro. Get out. See, now I got guys over here messing with me. Corey, I was just giving you props on this podcast that I'm on, and then you come over here and make me laugh.
Rude.
I know.
That's funny. Yeah. I feel like. Well, so are you wanting to do like mostly just MMA fights this year, or you want to mix it up and do some other stuff too?
I'm kind of probably just do MMA fights. We obviously like we joked about it literally just the other day about me doing a boxing fight because Adam boxes, Austin boxes, Kendall boxes. It's like everyone's starting to box and stuff. So like I always joke around. I'm like, oh, this isn't ES MMA anymore. It's ES stand up, and literally, because I'm like the only amateur like MMA fighter in our gym now. Yeah, because everyone's doing so good at kickboxing and boxing, which is great. But it's kind of the thing to where like if I had a long layoff period, like if I couldn't get an MMA fight, and Eric was like, hey, I've got a kickboxing fight for you, then yeah, obviously I'd like to do that.
Sure. Or I guess if you're injured, you can't grapple or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that makes it hard to be active in MMA is the injuries.
It's 100%.
It could set you back so much. And the training is a lot harder, I would imagine.
I had to back out of a fight. I had to back out of a fight 2 weeks before because we were sparring. You know, it started getting hard, and I got kneed in the rib and cracked one of my ribs 2 weeks before a fight, and I had to pull out because I couldn't even, I couldn't do anything really.
Yeah, that's rough.
So injuries are definitely a pain in the butt when it comes to the sport.
Yeah, that's what I've heard is like the grappling especially, it's like really hard on your body.
Oh yeah, like that was the thing. Like when I cracked my rib, like I could still get takedowns, but I had like no top pressure. Like I couldn't put any pressure on it really. So Eric was just like, yeah, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna risk making it worse.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
I think that was a similar thing happened to O'Malley, something with his rib leading up to the Aljo fight. He couldn't grapple, he said.
Ribs
like,
are no joke. No joke at all.
That's crazy. Yeah. I wouldn't even know what to do. I'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah. Like it happened and I was like, oh my God. It's fun. It was Kendall that did it. And like Kendall's good enough to where like he obviously didn't do it on purpose.
Yeah.
He just like threw up a knee and it just landed right in the right spot and just took me out. I still give him crap about it to this day. I'm like, dude, you made me pull out of my fight.
Man, that's crazy. So when you started training, did you start training? I'm always curious about this with fighters. Did you start training like everything all at once, like MMA, or did you just kind of start with one thing and then add,
So
how'd you do it?
when I first started here, Eric had only been open for like a couple months. So there was only a few of us here. And he asked me like what my background was, and I was like, I have a little bit of wrestling, and that was it. Like I didn't even know how to throw a punch. So he pretty much just got me into the striking classes at first, and then I would roll a little bit afterwards. But once we I knew that I was comfortable on the ground, my wrestling was like good enough. So I really focused on my striking first, and then now it's just everything.
Nice. Yeah, because I feel like, I don't know, when I came back into training, like when I started, I think it was September, it was September I started training at ES. I was like, I want to do grappling and I want to do all that, but I'm like, I really feel like I have more work to do on my striking, and I don't want to do it all at the same time. Right. And end up hurting myself or overexhausting myself, and I want to slowly build my cardio back and get into a solid routine. So I was just curious about that, because it's like I feel like, and everybody's like, oh, are you ever gonna do kickboxing? Are you ever gonna do jiu-jitsu? And I'm like, yeah, of course.
One day,
eventually.
Yeah. I'd say it made it easier for me because I knew that I wanted to do MMA. I knew I wanted to be an MMA fighter, so that's why I could just kind of like jump into everything. Like if somebody came in and they're like, oh, I only want to box or I only want to do jiu-jitsu, that's where I feel like it'd be easier to just do one thing, Or like if you don't know, and like you said, if you don't know, like, okay, then striking is the perfect thing to work on, because no matter what you do, either
I told
MMA
everybody
or
when I came there, I told everybody when I started training that I just wanted to focus on boxing, but secretly in my mind,
I mean, every fight starts on
MMA.
your feet, so every fight
I just
starts
didn't
standing
tell
up, so it's fine.
I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna focus on boxing, and then now I'm like, well, okay, well, I'll
by the way,
do some other
shit. Put on the small gloves, yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like it's also just.
Austin wants to say hi.
What's up, dude? How are you doing on your carnivore diet?
She asked how you're doing on your carnivore diet.
Very good.
He said good. I got the earpods in, so he can't hear you.
You just look so comfy back here.
I know. Just chilling on the bags, and I got Austin and Kendall back here messing with me.
You're so comfy. Like, what the heck?
Just back here chilling, man.
He's chilling.
Oh my God. See, I love these guys. They come in and mess with me all the time.
It's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad that Austin agreed to do the animal, because he had said something about it before, and I've been thinking about getting back on it. And like, I'm not doing carnivore, but I'm doing like, I'm not eating anything processed. I'm just eating like meat, fruit, maybe a little bit of vegetables, and focusing on, you know, whole foods. But I'm like, I'm not gonna do this unless somebody else does it.
Somebody
with me,
else
because
does it. Well, I think he did it for his last weight cut. His last fight, I think he did the carnivore, and I think he was saying he liked it a lot, and the weight came off really good. So
yeah, I feel like it's just one other thing to like help me get more discipline and
100%.
test my strength around sweets. And because everybody's always trying to tempt me with stuff. And I'm like, can you guys stop giving me food, please?
Right.
Like, I'm trying to eat healthy, okay? I'm trying to, I can't eat. And it's not even just like weight, because I don't care how much I weigh. Unless I was like actually going to fight, then I probably would be like, okay, I probably need to care about how much I weigh. But I really don't. What I care about is how I feel. And I feel like I just don't feel good when I eat like a bunch of crap.
That's another thing. Like, people, you know, everyone asks me as soon as I get out of my fight how many Christmas tree cakes I ate, how much I indulged. And it's like, when you eat so clean for so long and you put that crappy food back in your body, it made me so sick.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Yeah. It's not good at all.
Yeah, because your stomach's just not used to it.
And there's so many ingredients in it, and it's like, that can't be good.
Yeah.
Can't be
No,
good.
no,
And there's
no.
like 100 ingredients in one thing.
I texted Kendall like 2 days after our fight, and I was like, yeah, dude, I'm ready to get back on our diet because this junk food is just awful.
It's bad. It's so bad. Yeah. I'm really glad that I'm deciding to finally. I mean, I've done this before, but I kind of half-assed it the last time, and I would cheat, you know. And
well, you know, you got all of us to be on your ass about it.
Exactly. Yeah, please. Please,
oh,
dude.
Literally. Every day we're going to make, so how's it going? Just waiting for us to
I need that. That's what I need.
But yeah, I mean, we all do the same thing when someone's cutting weight. You know, as soon as they walk in, it's like, hey, what you weigh? You know, it's the same thing. It definitely helps when you have a good like team around to like help you with that stuff.
Yeah, you need people to hold you accountable.
Right.
For sure. Yeah, until it becomes such a routine that like you don't even have to think about it.
Right.
You know, then it's easier, but it is good to have people to keep you on your game.
Oh, 100%.
Not let
That's
you
why,
eat
like,
too many sweets.
If you're in the gym at all, like when me or Kendall is cutting weight or not cutting weight, like me and him call each other fat so much. And Austin, like all three of us literally just nonstop. We're like, look a little fat, dude. And and like we'll all get like super insecure about it, you know, like, oh, dude, whatever. Like I weigh this or whatever. Like the other night they were like, how much you weigh? And I'm like, man, I'm like 168 right now. Calm down.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Do you have any New Year's resolutions this year?
Honestly, my New Year's resolutions was like just to fight more, be more active, you know. I live a pretty healthy lifestyle and you know, like I said, I pretty much just go to the gym, go to work and go home. Like I don't really do anything else, you know. So like fighting has like taken over my life, which is funny because when I first started this, when Evan first got me into it, I was like, maybe I'll do one fight. Like it was like a bucket list thing. I was like, I'll do one fight.
That's me. That's literally me.
And then after, a couple months of training, you know, I was like, oh, I'm doing this. And then I got my first fight.
Nice.
Got put to sleep in the first 30 seconds of the first round of my first fight. Like, dude got me in a rear naked choke, put me to sleep. But everybody was just like, hey, one, you didn't tap, so that's pretty cool. And then, but like after that, I was like, oh, okay, so this is different. Like, I want to fight all the time. Now, it's at the point where like, okay, I do want to go pro. I do want to try to make it into the UFC. So it's like I know you just said you have that mindset of like, oh, like maybe you'll do like one fight or whatever, like a bucket list thing.
That's
until you fight, and then you're going to be like, until you fight, and then you're going to be like, oh, I need to keep doing this.
Yeah. Because even just the training, like, it makes me so happy. Like, when I'm at the gym,
Wait till you
I'm
step into
never
the
in a bad
cage or
mood.
the ring for the first time. Like that feeling of like making that walk and get into that ring, it's the greatest feeling ever. And then as soon as it's done, like I got done with my fight and I was like, when you think about it, I was like, wow, I trained all of that for 9 minutes. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go again.
That's awesome. So it kind of makes you hungrier.
Oh yeah,
Each time.
100%.
That's cool. That's cool that you're taking it serious, that you actually want to like get to the UFC and stuff. Because like, you know, I feel like it's hard sometimes to be ambitious because
Oh, it is.
depending on who you're around too, like people can be like, well, that's crazy. Why don't you just get a real job?
Right.
Why don't you just?
That's why I just hang out with the fighters all the time because we're all have the same mindset of like, oh yeah, we're gonna make it one day.
Yeah, that's why I like being around fighters. That's why I like talking to fighters because I feel like we're all kind of like chasing our dreams a little bit, and
Yes.
like we're all just like a little delusional, but in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you have to have that to get to that level because if you don't
Oh, for
believe that
sure.
you can do it, you're not gonna do it.
100%.
Yeah. That's why I feel like since I've started doing this too, like it's honestly helped my mindset in a lot of ways because, you know, I talk to people who are fighting in like bare knuckle MMA and like I talk to people who are doing crazy stuff and I'm like, man, I gotta step it up, you know, like I feel like it keeps me on my toes. Like it keeps me wanting to be more and more disciplined and more improving myself and, you know, kind of toughens me up a little bit, I guess.
Well, yeah, 100%.
In a good
You know,
way.
if you're around all these people, you know, 2 or 3 hours a day, 5 or 6 days a week, that are super disciplined with like their diet and coming in here every day and all this, it like makes you want to do the same, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's that saying that's
sure.
like, oh, if you hang around, if you have 4 millionaire friends and you hang around them enough, you're going to be the 5th. You know, it's kind of like that mindset.
It's true. It's so true. And I feel like it's different with fighting too, because it's like a lot of fighters don't have any money. I mean, let's just be real.
You're right.
And it's a hard career to make money in, even when you get to like a high level.
Oh, yeah.
And so you have to really love doing it.
Oh, you have to.
You have to.
Which is just the wildest thing to me that, like, you look at all these other sports, being at the highest level of your profession, people, you know, even like the lowest guys are making, you know, a couple $1 million a year doing this. And then you look at some of the highest level UFC guys, and it's like some of them got to take a part-time job doing something, driving for Uber or something like that. And I think that's just wild.
It is. I know. It's crazy. Like, even a lot of the pros that I've talked to, they have full-time jobs.
Oh, yeah.
And
You have to. The money's not
crazy.
there.
no. Unless you already got it.
Yeah. Or
Unless you're
in
balling
the-
like that.
Yeah, unless you have that or you're, you know, fighting for like Bellator or PFL now, or you make it into the top 10 in the UFC,
Yeah.
or you're gonna go
Yeah.
in for like a title run. You know, that's a little different. Those guys are making good money. But
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with MMA in the next few years, because there's a lot of moving parts right now, I feel like, in the landscape of like
I feel
PFL
like they
and we
need to
got bare
start paying
knuckle,
people
we got
more.
everything. Yeah, exactly. I feel like that's what we really need. And honestly, you know, to get that to happen, and it's still a young sport, like it's still a new sport
yeah.
when you really look at it. So it makes sense, but to me it's like we got to get more people watching it. And then when we get more people watching it, then we'll be able to make more money. Fighters will be able to make more money. So hopefully that's what happens as a result of all this. And I think it's cool because fighters have more options now, especially as a pro. Which is great to see. What do you think about all these different ones, though? What do you think about, like, PFL and bare knuckle MMA and boxing and bare knuckle boxing? What do you think about all that?
Like as far as like UFC, PFL, Bellator, like ONE FC, I feel like at a certain point it would just be more beneficial to like combine them all, you know. So like all the money goes into one pot basically, and you can pay your fighters more. Like they did the same thing like in the NFL or the MLB. They combine these other organizations to make one giant organization, and that's where everyone watches one thing. So that's where all the money's going to. So I feel like if they did that, it would be better to a certain extent, like for the sport.
Yeah.
And for the fighters,
I
and
agree.
Like making more money and better insurance options and something that like
because I keep seeing all these organizations pop up, and it's like, man, do we really need more? Like at this point, do we really need more? I don't think so. Yeah,
I think that's wild. I think that's why I'm interested to seeing how the Bellator and PFL merger is gonna work out. Like I'm really interested in that.
That's huge for the sport. That's huge because that's the first step toward kind of what you're talking about.
Yes, and I think it's gonna be great because like Michael Chandler said it before. He's like, I made more money when I was fighting for Bellator than I did in my first like 3 fights in the UFC, which is just insane.
It's wild.
So I'm excited. I'm excited to see that. I really don't know. I feel like maybe the UFC. I don't know how the roster looks comparing. Like I don't know if there's more people on the roster in the UFC than there are
That's
like
probably
Bellator.
Good point. Yeah.
So that could be it, but still, it's like I feel like the UFC makes so much money. You can pay your fighters more.
I agree.
Like that, I feel like they shouldn't have to bank on a fight of the night bonus to get them through the year.
No.
But like you said, hopefully one day we'll get past all this.
So it's like, I get it, but at the same time, it would be cool to see fighters get paid more so they can spend more time focusing on fighting, you know, in what they actually are doing in there. And I think, but there are advantages, and that's one thing I've thought about between like PFL and UFC and Bellator. It's like one thing the UFC does do that I think makes up for the pay gap a little bit is they do a great job of building you up and like giving you a platform. So I think that is worth taking a little bit of a pay cut to get to the UFC because depending on who you are, of course, because some fighters go to the UFC and nobody knows who they are. But, you know, if you're a Sean O'Malley or a Bo Nickel, going to the UFC is going to help you so much more than going to any other organization.
100%.
So it's huge. And that's why you got to, like, be yourself and you got to show your personality, too, because, you know, if you don't, the UFC is not going to market you, and they're not going to build you up.
Like, after my fight, like, my interviews and stuff, like, I was saying the goofiest stuff, and people are like, why are you saying that stuff? And I'm like, because I feel like so many, like, especially amateur, like, even local pro fighters try to put on this, like, tough guy, like, oh, I'm tough, I'm, you know, hard work, dedication, all this, and it's like, that's not marketable, you know?
No, it's
like,
not.
That's why, like, my nickname, Jesse Martinelli is the one that gave me my nickname, because Eric was like, you can't pick your own fighter name. So one day we were warming up, and Jesse Martinelli was just like, hey, I think a cool fighter name would be Logan Hulk Hogan Jones. And Eric heard that. Oh, yeah. Eric heard that and was just like, that's it. That's your name. And you have to walk out to the Hulk Hogan theme song. So, like, that's what I've done for all my fights, and the crowd loves it. Like so many people were like, oh, that's so awesome. So then I said some funny stuff on the mic, and I had so many people after that fight come up to me and tell me how funny that was. And it's like, to a certain extent, like, you gotta do that to, like, get people to, like, recognize you. So, like, the next time, hopefully, I'm at Nemesis, they're like, oh, this is the Hulk Hogan kid who says funny stuff on the mic, like Chael Sonnen, you know?
Chael was the best at that.
Oh, yeah. I think for the next...
I watched a Chael clip the other day, and I was just dying. I was literally dying.
He's amazing on the mic, and it's the same with, like, WWE fighters. It's why they're so marketable, because they say the most ridiculous things. And I'm just going to... I told everyone. I've told everyone this. I was talking to Danny about it the other night. I'm like, my post-fight interviews are just going to get more and more ridiculously funny, and it's just going to be, like... Like I like for the next one, I'm gonna say something that Chael Sonnen said, and it's gonna be hilarious, and people are gonna remember that, and like that's what I want. I want to be like remembered of like, this kid's funny. Wait for him to get on the mic.
Exactly.
You know,
I love
like
it.
Derek Lewis. We
I
all
love it.
are waiting for a Derek Lewis post-fight interview because he gives great post-fight interviews. It's hilarious.
Yeah. And it makes you more excited to watch the fights too. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah. 100%. Like there was a guy I saw the other day, Nate the Train. I was I was watching some of his clips.
Nice.
Like, I love this guy. I just love when fighters are themselves and
Yes.
like just blow up their personality, because it's like,
Right? There's no need
yeah,
to
like,
put on this persona
be
of like,
goofy.
oh, I'm just this tough guy. Like, no, I'm trying to go out there and have fun, dude. That's why we're doing this. We're doing this to
Yeah.
have fun.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. And that's another thing I like about the gym too, is like we do have fun. Like,
Oh god, we have
you
so much
know,
fun.
I love it. I love it.
Literally, I got guys walking back and forth, knowing that I'm back here doing this interview, and they're back here trying to make me laugh, and because we just have fun. And I'm gonna go like yell at them here in a minute when I go spar, but that's the
That's
gym
awesome.
here. You know, that's all we do is joke around.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, any final thoughts before we get off here? I know you got to get to training and.
Not really. I mean, always gonna give a shout out to Eric, best coach, ESMMA, great gym. I just gotta give my shout outs real quick. Jesse Martinelli, Corey Beck, Austin Miller, Kendall Whited. I give one to Adam Cutting because I told him I would. And then even over at Wolfston, Mop Jitsu. You know, everyone knows him as Mop, but you know, he's helped me a lot with my ground game lately. He's been great. You know, Danny Moriarty, Jerry Medley, all the guys over there. They've been doing great things with me. You know, we're the Munchkin Gang, as they call it. Or I don't know if you saw the Christmas card of all of us as elves on Facebook. Yeah.
I think I did see that.
Yeah. So, just big shout out to
That's
like
awesome.
just everyone that's in my life, either in this gym or that gym over there. Like, huge shout out to them, because without them, like, I wouldn't be doing this. I literally come in to like have a good time with these guys. So, all love to
Love
them.
it. That's awesome. Well, I'm excited to see what's next for you. I'm excited to see your next fight, and I'm excited to get back in the gym and start training more. You know, I'm hoping
Oh,
to
for sure.
I'm trying to make the time this year to come to the gym a little bit more frequently if I can. So,
We're here for you.
yay. Thanks. I appreciate
Yeah.
you guys. I really
For
do.
sure. Oh yeah.
Because it's you know, especially being female and you're in a male-dominated, you know,
Oh, I couldn't
industry,
imagine.
whatever you want to call it. You know, it is intimidating going to
Yeah.
a gym and you're like, you know, like you don't feel as welcome sometimes because you're just like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, some people just don't even really watch women's MMA or women's fighting at all.
Right.
And which is fine, you know, whatever. It is what it is. And at this point, I'm used to it because like I'm a woman in MMA media, and
Right.
and then so, you know, I joke about it all the time. Like people always tell me to get back in the kitchen and all this stuff.
Oh
And
my
it's,
god. It's
and
horrible.
honestly, at this point, it just makes me laugh. But like
Right.
when it first started, I was like, "Screw you!"
Infuriated.
Like I got so mad. I'd be like, comments like paragraphs of like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, I've been watching it, and so now I've realized that when you just joke about it and when you
Oh,
think
you
it's
just play
funny,
into it.
they hate it. They get so
yeah.
mad. They get so mad.
It's better when you can just play into it, you know.
Yes, 100%. That's what I do now. I'm like, oh, I'm actually in the kitchen right now.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Oh.
they're like, oh, okay, I'll stop. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
look at my cheesecakes I made. Yeah, check it out. I'm in
Oh,
the
yeah.
kitchen, dude.
That's what you need. That's what
So-
you gotta do to shut them down. I love that.
Yeah, that's how you shut down the haters. You just like,
Oh yeah.
you give them nothing. You give them nothing.
No.
And you don't argue with them. You just,
Yeah,
you gotta
dude,
play
for
the
sure.
game. You gotta play the game. It's
Yeah.
fun. Cool. Well, it's been awesome chatting with you. Of course, I'll see you at the gym probably soon, and
Yeah.
hopefully we
thanks so
can
much
train
for having
together
me on.
sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Appreciate being
I will
on
let
here.
you
And
get. Yeah, of course. And anybody that wants to come on, any fighters from the gym, this is just a message to everybody. Like, you're welcome on anytime. Just hit me up.
For
Because
sure.
I want to help the gym and I want to help you guys, you know, any way that I can. So,
yeah, it's a good time just to sit
Whatever I
down and
can
talk
do.
about fighting too. You know.
yeah, of course. Cool.
For sure.
Well, I'll let you get back to your training. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on, and I will see you soon.